Hi, this is William Robinson, Associate Editor at Viral Hair, and today we're speaking to.
Tyler Walker.
And which company do you work with, Mr. Walker? What do you do?
I work for Crunchyroll Entertainment. I started out in the dark ages, many years ago, working for Funimation.
Okay,
And through the years, we've things have changed, and through companies buying each other, and when we merged with Sony, the next step was to merge with Crunchyroll, and so now we're more of a one-stop company. We a larger company, and it's been pretty good. I started out in 2002
right.
as an audio engineer, so recording the actors in the booth. Got to work with a lot of great people. To work with the directors. I also did audio editing, so taking out all the nasty noises that people make unknowingly, or making things fit the mouth flaps is a big deal for us anime types. We want to make that a visual, the seamless, the visual experience. We want that to be seamless,
So it's all
and
integrated.
yeah. And so, a lot of my job back then was to, edit lines and make them fit better, take out all the nastiness, clean them up. And then I started recording episodes, and then I started directing episodes, and then I started writing episodes and producing episodes and doing some voice acting here and there. And just tried to do basically whatever I thought I could do.
And you're talking about the audio recording. That kind of ties back to um, ADR then.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what it is. Automated dialogue replacement, but it's not really that automated. It takes a lot of people, not only the translators to get the script right, and get that part of the script right. The script writers then go in, and we have to match. We have to write it to where it's going to be a sentence that moves the story forward or does whatever the line needs to do, and matches those mouth movements, and fits the characterization, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then the director, the actor, and the engineer are in the booth, and then you have your mix engineer, and your QC people, and a lot of people take care of that quote
Right.
unquote automated uh, dialogue recording. So um,
Okay. And so that covers the audio part. And what does the line producer do then?
the line producer at that time, basically, I would coordinate with other directors, like say, like I maybe had three shows that I was responsible for.
Right.
I can't direct and do all that stuff for one. So, coordinating with the directors, and helping cast and oversee mixes and continuity, just
Right.
making sure that all that kind of ran correctly and we had the right people for the job. And um, so that was a thing for a while. Then I just moved back into directing, and now I'm a script writer, script supervisor,
Okay.
so
Neat.
an editor. So I've done a lot of things
Sounds
in
like it.
this world. Yeah.
Now, just based this off my own experience. My wife is Hispanic. Her parents were originally from Brownsville, so a lot
Hmm.
of deep Spanish speaking at times.
Oh yeah.
And there's times she's trying to figure out the way to express a phrase from Spanish to English, and we kind of
Hmm.
had to play around sometimes. Not as much as when we first married, but
Yeah.
so doing the scripting,
Uh-huh.
is it sometimes hard, or is there a way gets any roadblocks when you're trying to translate Japanese concepts to English concepts in the dialogue?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Sometimes some things work pretty easily. They have the structure of their language is different.
Right.
They don't have the object verb direct object, or subject verb direct object. They things are flipped around. Their phrasing is different. And so the translators will put a line together, but they have certain constraints on what they do. They have reading speed. I think it's something like they can't have more than 82 characters in a caption.
Right.
Stuff like that. And so we take that, and maybe we've got 5 syllables to say something that they have, 24, or maybe we have 20 syllables to say something like, I don't know, so trying to, marry the character's outlook, the character's perspective, what the goal of the line is, whether it's to move the action, whether it's to tell a joke, whether it's to, be poignant, whatever that may be, and to fit the mouth flaps. I mean, it's each script takes us about 20 to 25, 30 hours to from writing to reviewing to all that, and then about the same to record.
Wow,
So
pretty intense process.
yeah, it's kind of a painstaking one. It can be. Some things don't translate very well. Like, for example, we had a comment about somebody's eyesight, and they don't say 20/20 vision in Japan. They express it in a different way,
Right,
right? So if someone says you've got 21.82 vision, like, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything to me, or your average, American viewer. So, taking something like that, putting that in a way that people would understand what they're trying to say with that.
right,
Um, Certain concepts, jokes, you know, but we try to fit the spirit of the scene, and do what the idea of the adaptation process and making these happens is kind of stewarding this property and someone's life work, maybe, where we want to bring it to a new audience and do it justice and do it well.
right. Um, Now the I know there's with American audiences of cartoons and properties like that. There's always reboots, remakes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm old school anime. I grew up with
Yeah.
Star Blazers, Battle of the Planets, that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
Same.
Cool, and
I
they
didn't
tend,
know. I didn't know. I didn't know there was such a thing as anime. I'd watched Star Blazers,
yeah,
and Derek Wildstar was cool, and Captain Avatar and all that kind of stuff. And
Robotech, yeah,
yeah, and then be like, I didn't know that was anime, and like until I was probably in either late high school or college.
yeah. I found out it was anime actually when I was in the service a
Oh.
couple of years in,
Mm-hmm.
because as a rec center, one of the guys I hang out with on the occasion happened to have a couple of uh, tapes, and one they had was Gotcham in the original version
Yeah.
of G-Force Battle of
Yeah.
Planets. Then he
Yeah.
explained this whole thing to me. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. I've been watching that. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. And speaking of Star Blazers, that was like one of my, that was a big property to me. I'd race home from school to watch it, and
right,
and all that stuff. And it was with my friends growing up, we talked about, even like we had a club that our bands played at called the Argo, and like we were all real into it. And then, years later, I'm working on dubbing the live action version of the space battleship Yamato movie, which is
awesome,
Star Blazers to
yeah,
us.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I got a chance to voice a character or two in the reboot of Yamato. And I mean, I worked on Galaxy Railways, which was another Masamoto property. So it's super cool when you see that, when you see that kind of stuff, and it really kind of taps into those childhood feelings.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out because actually I am hunting down the limited series that Comico did for the unproduced season of Star Blazers.
Oh, huh.
They adapted the last season into a miniseries, into a
Oh, I
comic
didn't know
series
that.
for
Yeah.
Comico, and yeah, I've been scrambling to find that because it's been really neat so far. The couple issues
Yeah.
I've got, and like you said, it brings back those memories, the childhood connection.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I mean, I thought that was the cool stuff, and the big swoopy hair and all that. And there's a certain style with that. It's just so iconic. And the first show I worked on like that was Galaxy Railways with Mike McFarland and Chris Patton, who will actually be at this convention this weekend. and it was like, oh, like, holy crap, this is like so nostalgic. I've never seen this one before, and it is like so nostalgic just from the look of it.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of nostalgic, Comic Con Row that you're a guest at this weekend, uh,
Mm-hmm.
as this area you're already familiar with?
I am. I spent my high school years there, as a as a student at Conroe High School, and my parents moved away like pretty soon after we graduated, after I graduated. And so I drive through there once in a while, but that was I didn't graduate that recently, so it's been a long time. And so it'll be cool, maybe I'll see somebody I know, but everything's so different, but I will say it's kind of cool to go back to a place where maybe I was a little nerdy and all that, and get to sign some autographs and sign my pop and stuff. But while I was there, I was involved in theater arts, and I did, I actually worked on sound for some plays at the high school, and did acting, and worked on scenery and stuff. So it's kind of always been, it's like all my, and working in audio, recording bands and stuff. So it's like everything kind of converged for me in a way,
Right.
so.
Now, speaking of that, with all those exposure with audio and recording for bands and school plays, what the actual linchpin or the critical moment that sent you into the direction of working with anime?
Well, I went after I graduated, I went to University of North Texas, that had a still does had a strong broadcasting, radio, TV, film um department, and I was always interested in audio production, and I played drums and keyboards, and I was always interested in recording and stuff like that. And I had already moved to LA and come back, and a friend of mine, and I'd actually met some people, like I'd met like a couple of people that worked for Funimation, like John Bergmeyer, who has been in tons of things, and he was the lead writer for a long time, and Chris Sabat. We went to college together, and I knew them from our music scene. And a guy I knew named Matt Pearsall was a production assistant there, and he was doing trailer audio, and he's like, man, you should really apply there. And so he got me in to get an interview, and I interviewed with the VP of production at the time, this guy Barry Watson. And I think I mentioned the right piece of gear. I was like, oh, I learned on the Roland DM 800. He's like, oh, I love that thing. We went on it. You find that thing with your, especially when you're trying to get on someone's wavelength. We found the thing that
Right,
we could talk about. And I was like, man, I nailed that interview. I can't wait to start. And 6 months passed, and I finally get a call that's like, hey, if you're ready, we can get you in. And I was definitely ready to leave my current job at the time. And the first day I was working with Justin Cook and Eric Vale and um, Laura Bailey on Fruits Basket and Yu Yu Hakusho and some of these old classic shows,
right,
Dragon Ball GT. And I just and it was a growing company, especially at the time. We
right,
went from 4 studios, from 3 studios when I first started there, to now we have 12 going full time just in our building, plus satellites and yada yada. So there was a lot of good opportunity for advancement.
right.
And if something, I can't say that this is a great path for everyone, but I express my opinions on things. And if something, needed to be done, I would say, I think I could do it, or I want to do that better, or, I'll
Right,
give it a shot. And that's how I got into the company. And after doing some engineering and cleanup for a while, we had one of the newest director at the time, this guy, Justin Pate. He went to tour with Ringo Starr. He got the opportunity to go play keyboards for Ringo Starr and tour the world. And he took it, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to try my hand at directing," and um, I did that for 15 years or so.
Right. With with your time you spent working in anime, has there ever been a project that's come across that you guys worked on or translated, whatever, and when you looked at the plot line, you kind of scratched your head and said, "Well, how does this work?" Or this might be a little too weird for Americans.
I mean, you know, I mean, yeah, pretty much every season, probably. I mean, honestly, you know, you talk about some weird stuff, or there's a property you think is really going to hit and it doesn't, and you put everything into it and you're really painstaking over every line and everything, and doesn't get as popular. Um, but as far as like, there's all kinds of weirdness out there. There's shows about food, or like the things that are kind of like the show Ninja Slayer was very like kind of low quality on purpose, to make a point. And there's a lot of crazy shows out there.
Yeah, I
You Well, I think probably my craziest one, I played it's a show called Sarzan Mai, and it's a musical about this thing called a kappa, which is like a frog water spirit thing.
yeah,
And I played the one who created other ones by eating them and pooping them, and the whole thing was about basically like people hid their deepest secrets inside like their butt. And we would do these songs, and then they'd extract their desires, and like, yeah.
so you're saying basically it was anime about Kappa Krappa. Anyway,
Yeah. And I
sorry,
loved it. I
sorry.
loved that show. That was so fun. I loved my character. It was a great time. um but they're all there's a lot of unique stuff out there, and you can
Right,
tell a lot of different stories out there.
right. I remember when my son was younger, um, and after the success of stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon,
Hmm.
when Kids WB tried stuff like Spirit Detective
Yeah.
and a couple others, and they didn't catch on the way the other ones did.
Yeah.
But in a way, when I watched them, I think I enjoyed them more than my son did because to me it felt like I said, there's a different taste appeal to everyone. To me,
Hmm.
that felt like some of the old pulp stories from the 30s, the way it was done
Mm-hmm.
in some
Hmm.
ways. But I think that so at that point, the audience quite wasn't there the way it is today
Yeah.
for anime or
Yeah.
different properties.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with Dragon Ball has been going on for what,
Ever.
30 years or something almost. I worked on Fairy Tale for 10 years or more myself.
Wow.
I worked on 300 something episodes of that. And that one actually got to meet the creator of the show.
Hmm.
Um, and that was awesome, to meet him, Hiro Mashima, who created the manga and the characters and stuff. And that's when I felt the personal kind of responsibility, really the personal connection, and said like,
Right.
this is his thing, and I don't want to let him down. I owe it to him to do the best a job that I can with his baby, right? And like, you don't see that a whole lot.
Yeah. And I think that's something that even if I don't get, um, because I don't keep up with the modern anime the way some of my
Hmm.
younger friends do.
Hmm.
Um, Occasionally I'll watch a couple episodes, something that looks neat, like
Yeah.
One Punch Man. I love. To me, it's
Yeah.
like if Monty Python wrote Superman. I mean, that's just the. But what you're talking about, the respect for properties, different creators'
Yeah.
properties, that's something I admire about having to talk to other people that in your similar business that do
Yeah.
the translation, whatever, is a respect you see for someone else's properties, and that's something I really, really respect.
Yeah. And
because
sometimes it's a little more work to get there. Or
yeah,
you're just like, oh, this is just they're just having fun. Let's have fun. But like meeting the whole thing, and of course this is big production in New York, and we were debuting it and blah blah, and like the pressure was on, and it was my big moment, and pretty cool. Occasionally some people will meet the creators, but it seems pretty rare. You know.
since you mentioned about your love for Star Blazers, um, have you been to several cons already? Doing this, a few shows,
Oh
or
yeah, I mean over the years, yeah, more so, really I've done more in the past couple years because my character in My Hero Academia um got this thing, this pop, and the collectible, so now there's a collectible factor in it, and
right,
people love their collectibles, and so that's gotten me the chance to get out there for that. And then people are like, oh, I love this show, or they'll know my work,
right,
um because a lot of my stuff is, I guess it's all with ADR, it's all behind the scenes, but if you're writing or directing, adapting, all that kind of stuff, you're even more behind the scenes than
right.
the voice actors. And I voice act occasionally, but my main gig, my bread and butter was production.
So would like the ultimate thing for you going back, like I said, as my Star Blazer a minute ago, would be a Star Blazer cosplayer wanting to sign your pop. Would that be just like the ultimate con thing for you?
I mean, that would be pretty awesome. And I've had a couple of Gang Orca cosplayers come up, which is like a kind of a hard one to pull off. Uh, and that is super cool. And then like you're
Yeah,
always, like some of these characters you spend a lot of time with, and some, like he's not in the show a whole lot. And so
right,
someone says like, oh, I love this character, and like I'm always interested, like, wow, like what do you like about him? What's your, what's what's so cool about him compared to others? I'm very interested in to see what someone
right,
gets from it, because what I
right.
get is different.
And that is cool because past couple of years, the shows I've been to, um, hearing there's other characters being done because normally you see just copy and paste of All Might.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good to see the fans are showing more variety and it's catching on in different ways.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So where, since, okay, so you talked about the automated process, well, wasn't really automated, but where do you see this part of the industry going from here on with the advent of stuff like AI and things like that?
With that, the question has come up a little bit lately. I mean, you're just not going to get that human connection, and like it's not really an automated thing. You have to have people that care about it, who want to do a good job, who understand uh things outside of the show. Maybe you can tie in something else, um that you can, and then it making phrasing, all this kind of stuff, and kind of capturing that human element. It just can't be replicated, I don't think. um People's voices are unique, people's performances are unique. It's just something that I just can't see getting better in that way with that kind of technology. Like people like that connection, and also like, I do a lot of workshops and classes and training and stuff, and like this is something that people want to do.
Right,
They want to act. Maybe they don't like being on stage, or they don't, whatever gets them into voice acting, right? And like, that's having people that they can look up to or aspire to or learn from. Like, how is that? That's its own thing. So you can't just take the life out of it.
right. And along the on that note, with the this will be the second year Kim Koi will be doing the giving people an opportunity to voice like an extra in an anime.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
something you'll be participating in? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I get that chance, like,
Yeah,
so I mean that would be fun, but it's not as rare for me as like someone who would be there and really want to
yeah.
do it,
Or or
I wouldn't
or
want to
or
I
even
wouldn't want to
help.
take someone's slot, you
Right.
know.
Well, not just that, but also you mentioned teaching and doing workshops.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if they have anybody giving tips, because I think that's something. Um, since they're doing that, I'm not saying you do the voice, but maybe give a couple of people trying this out
Yeah.
a few pointers.
Yeah, I mean that's directing is you take somebody and you help them get through a scene or a line or find their voice or you give them context or you give them parameters or whatever they need. A lot of that directing is kind of working with somebody one on one and figuring out how you can help them give the best performance for the character for the show. So there's that communication, which wouldn't be there if we tried to throw in a bunch of machines, right? It just
Right.
wouldn't be there. I love doing workshops and giving people advice, telling them how not to make their directors angry. What's people in that position, their time is very valuable. A
Right.
lot of people want a piece of their time, so we want, um, I want people who learn from me to be able to belong there and like to not waste anyone's time and get the most out of their experience for everyone. um and I do a couple of different workshops with a couple of different companies, and we each cover different things. Some are more production based, some are more voice acting based, some are more audition based. The panel I'm going to be giving this weekend is about auditions, and
Oh,
about just kind
awesome.
of like what they normally look like. It's not like super in depth, but like here's what they look like. Here's some things you might want to prepare for, you may want to have on hand, uh, and here's some really good auditions. And if we have time, here's maybe not a not so good one. But because auditions are stressful enough. People kind of, that's when you can either make yourself very happy or get discouraged or whatever. So it can be a crucial time, and that could be your first impression for a director. Or maybe sometimes the people or you've worked with them before and you're trying out for a new role, and sometimes you're just coming in as a stranger wanting to make a good impression. And I want to help people do that or figure out what they need. Not everybody's even ready for that.
Right.
Sometimes it's like you need to worry about this, and then
Make more about that.
yeah, you don't want to make the wrong first impression. Sometimes it's like go for it, and sometimes it's like you got to figure some stuff out too. So
As someone who, when I go to a show, hustles for interviews and
hmm
tries to rely on the impression, I appreciate that more than you know. Well,
yeah, I
Tyler,
mean, you want everyone to have a have a positive time from it.
right. Right. Well, Tyler, I'm glad to see you love this genre so much, and I'm glad to see, you know, we have an anime in common, Star
Yeah,
Blazers. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And I hope you have a really good show. And thank you for your time, sir.
All right, thanks so much, and it was great to meet you.
You
And
too.
hopefully, I will see some people this weekend at Kimokawaii.
Yep.
All right.